Hello, I'm Maria Takahashi, and welcome to this episode of News for Our Future. What's big, bright, colorful, and can put a smile on any child's face? No, I'm not talking about a rainbow sundae. I'm talking about a hat, a happy hat. Anyone who has endured a hospital stay will tell you it can be a stressful time. And when the patient is a child, well, let's just say that a little pick-me-up gift doesn't hurt, especially when it's homemade. But that's only half of what happy hats are all about. Today we're going to take you behind the hat, so to speak, and get the story behind these colorful headpieces. And we begin in McLean, Virginia. With a drop of the needle and a tug of the thread, these youngsters are spending their precious free time sewing some life-changing headwear.
Well, we thought it would be a good idea to help support people who need help, and it would be a fun thing to do for the team.
They're called happy hats, and they might just be the most inspirational thing you could put on your head.
This is what we set up in about 6 sites around the region.
Susan Corsand is the founder and executive director of Happy Hats, and says that they're an ideal way for kids to give back to some of their peers.
And these kids have all come together in support of hospitalized children. So they're running an assembly line, and you can see the stations that by the numbers, and they're each working together as in teamwork.
A process that only needs a few basic ingredients to be successful.
Well, first of all, you need tables, chairs, and kids. And there's a bin that you put on table, bin 1 on table 1, and there's a placemat in each bin, and then the children or the adolescents open it up, and there's instructions, and they do that particular step and pass the hat up.
The finished hats eventually find their home on the head of a hospitalized child, but not before giving their young crafters some vital life lessons.
They start to learn workforce readiness skills, such as, well, I can say supply chain management, but it's more just service and thinking about the sick child and being responsible to make a good product.
A responsibility that's not lost on any of these youth.
This is a start of a happy hat, and it's a colorful fabric that has this piece so that it can be comfortable on it.
While making the hats has different meaning for each kid here. For Olivia Bravo, making a hat is akin to returning a gracious favor.
So putting the hat on, since it was so colorful and it was sparkly, it made you feel a little bit safer about being in the hospital and a lot better about being there. And I think that that's why it's good to do happy hats, that all other kids can feel like I do.
I want them to gain a sense of self-efficacy. I want them to understand that when they do something, it really matters. And I want them to know that without them, the children in the hospital would only have things that might be made in factories. And I want them to realize that they have a real role in solving this problem, because peer support has the greatest impact on a sick child.
Which shows that an awful lot of love can be packed into a simple hat. 14 years and over 3,000 workshops later, Susan's organization is still going strong, despite the fact that prices for the hat's raw materials, such as cotton and cloth, has gone up tremendously. So how does she do it? What drives someone to dedicate 14 years of their life to making colorful hats? Recently, we sat down with Susan to find out. Take a look.
I'm an artist. And I have always, when I was young, I produced hats and accessories, etc., and tried to start my own business, and tried to do that kind of thing after college. And I remember being in New York, and they liked my little hats, my little cocktail hats, and they said, "This is great. When can we have 3,000?" And I was showing my prototypes, and I just thought, I don't know how to produce 3,000. I mean, I didn't know how to go into production. So it impacts me because, first of all, designing the hat was really wonderful, working with the nurses and the doctors and making sure that it was hospital accepted. it's great to share how to produce a product with the youth. That's my art now. And it impacts me because of the economic development and the social impact of the project, which I have to say is due to my maturing and being around people who help me understand the importance of that. So the fact that we could potentially have a program that could ignite a social change is really exciting, because every year 6 million kids in the hospital are hospitalized, and that's an enormous amount. Now, we're working with Children's and a large corporation to figure out the value added on having kids understand how to run a system. And if we use just a number, because one of the hospitals is doing a clinical evaluation of the impact in the hospital with doctor-patient communication, patient experience, compliance, and length of stay, which are all four the holy grails in the hospital. And if you put a $200, for example, value on that, which considering that criteria is relatively simple, and 14,000, 15,000 hats for each children's hospital, you can see the impact, just the financial impact. But then you have the other side where you have kids who are practicing workforce readiness, their soft skills, they're saying nice things to each other, positive work environment. That has a whole nother impact as well in terms of them going out into the workforce. So you have a win-win situation that we're trying to, just because the value of the hat and the fact that every doctor wants a happy patient. One young man he must have been about 15 and a half, 16. He was the captain of his soccer team, and he had bone cancer and had his leg amputated and was very depressed. And he was in almost a fetal position in a dark hospital room. And my feeling is, well, I have happy hats, but what that, how it's so humbling. What is a happy hat? What is, so they asked me to go in with them, and I went in with a few hats, and he, what can you do in a situation like that? It's really hard. But a young woman, and I remember her exactly, she had taken a soccer hat it was white with the black and white balls on it. And she had put, red ribbons on the forehead as a goalpost, and then on the tips and the pom-poms, she made them into soccer balls. So you put the hat on your head, and every time you turn your head, it makes a goal. And she had written a wonderful note, and she was, 16, and she had made this beautiful hat filled with love. And the young man chose that hat, and it just created a very small opening in his spirit where the professionals could go in and start to work with him to transition his experience in life. And it's the kids that make you keep going in a project like this, because then you have the youth in the community, and we work with both youth that are in a background that is comfortable, but also kids who live in high-risk communities. And I don't say at-risk youth because all youth are at risk, but we work in the detention centers because I wanted to see the buy-in from the youth was so great. I wanted to see, well, do adjudicated kids and kids who have been in gangs, what do they think about happy hats? And so I went into the jail. I spent 3 years, once a week, and they would make the hats as a team, and then they would deliver them to the hospital. And it was transformational for them in terms of them thinking, what am I doing throwing my life away when this kid is sick and doesn't have a choice, whereas I have a choice. So I have to go back and think about it. So what we have is a really powerful message that we're asking the youth, will you help a sick kid? And they all will. Every child will help a sick kid. Well, I'm learning a lot, adolescent brain development, or all of the neuroscience research is just exploding right now. So we have some real opportunities to align learning experiences with brain development. And we're going to see that there are ways that we can provide youth with opportunities that are going to encourage them to engage in their studies, because they really have a wonderful education system. The other thing I want to say is that cotton has doubled in price, and that's a challenge for Happy Hats. Although it is and it isn't, we're going to go forward with it, and it's an exciting project. We started with $20 because we always wanted to say we started with $20, so we can tell kids, yes, you can start something with $20. We also use recuperated materials from, we started doing that. Now we're a little bit above that, but for example, our elastic, they would always shoot the end of the run into a box, and we would have a 50-pound box of elastic that we would have to untangle and roll into big balls. We used to have balls of elastic as big as this, you know. It was really, but it was, you know, it was the way we could get what we wanted. We wanted cotton elastic. We want the best cotton. We want organic muslin to line it. We want, you know, we want to give the kids the best product, the best materials to create the best hat, because we respect their spirit of giving that's in it. So yeah, we run close to the line. You know, we've built this over the years, and we have our budget is very small. It's very small. It's under $50,000 a year, and you just wonder, how do we keep doing it? But we do. Because it's really work. Yeah.
14 years and how many workshops?
3,000 workshop, 3,000 over almost 200,000 kids, and we've made 200,000 hats, and we've done it across the country. We even went to Germany one time with Happy Hats, and you know, people want to help. And until we find a program that can meet that need, we're always going to have people who don't engage, and we need to engage now. And I think that understanding how many kids are sick and why they're sick, you have an opportunity to move the kids to move their careers into science and research and the environment. And that's a beautiful place to put your career.
Most of the kids who participate in the Happy Hats workshop feel good knowing that their hard work will put a smile on a sick child's face. But for one girl, making a Happy Hat means even more. That's because not so long ago, she was a sick child who received a hat, and now she's returning the favor. It's practice day for the Vienna Stars softball team, a time when these young athletes can perfect their pitches and sharpen their swings. But as these young sluggers look forward to their next game, one looks back on a time in her life when her days weren't as bright.
When I was about 5, I started having gelastic seizures, which is a form of epilepsy. And so I had to go to the hospital for a 48-hour EEG.
If she looks familiar, that's because you met her at the Happy Hats workshop. Her name is Olivia. And while today she is working on putting fear into the eyes of her opponents, it wasn't so long ago that fear was an everyday part of her life.
I was in the hospital, and I had a bunch of wires onto my head so that they could monitor my brain waves. And so they had to wrap it up and kind of looked like I was mummified or something. It was a little bit scary because just having any wires near you, you didn't know what was happening to you.
A scary situation that turned into an inspiring moment when a gracious nurse delivered Olivia a Happy Hat.
The nurse just came out and just like routinely put it on my head, and I didn't think much of it until my dad looked at the tag and they saw that it was made by actual kids.
Today, Olivia has no problem wearing her hat, even on the softball field. And her dad, who is also her coach, has no problem talking about what it meant to see a smile on his daughter's face during a challenging time for both her and him.
I think the worst part was to see the anxiety that she was showing. She was young, didn't really understand what was happening. Neither did we, for that matter. And to see your child with all of these electrodes stuck to her scalp was a little bit overwhelming, to say the least.
Olivia has come a long way since her hospital stay and is now paying it forward by making happy hats herself and encouraging her peers to do the same.
I think it means a lot more when it's made by other kids, because if it's just made by like a factory, it doesn't really have much meaning. But when actual kids put their love into it and they give it to you, it's a lot more meaningful to the person who gets it.
When I found out that they were made by other children, so it's children helping other children, I thought, this is unbelievable. It's, children actually helping other children. It's just fantastic.
A fantastic way to make a home run of a difference in a child's life. So by now, it should be obvious that happy hats are supposed to make you happy. But does being happy really help with healing? Earlier, we sat down with Dr. Lane Kalbfleisch, a child learning expert, to see what she had to say.
Hello, I'm Morelia Masudi-Corsand, one of the reporters for News for Our Future. Today, I'm interviewing Dr. Lane Kalbfleisch, an associate professor of educational psychology and cognitive neuroscience in the College of Education and Human Development at George Mason University. She is also the Pomada Term Professor of Cognitive Neuroscience in George Mason's Krasnow Institute for Advanced Study and founder of her neuroimaging lab, KidLab. What is it exactly that you do? What is your area of research?
I'm a dually trained educational psychologist and a cognitive neuroscientist, and this kind of grows out of the fact that I used to teach middle school and was frustrated by the environmental supports, or sometimes the lack of, in kids with learning disabilities, especially the ones that are twice exceptional, who are gifted, have really high ability but have attention deficit or Asperger's syndrome or dyslexia. And so I became a cognitive neuroscientist so we could study those issues from the inside out in hopes that our biologies would give us better clues about how kids like this learn.
I understand that you are the principal investigator, lab chief, and founder of KidLab, Krasnow Investigations of Developmental Learning and Behavior. What does this lab do?
So KidLab studies talent and its relationship to disability. And how we do that, we use functional magnetic resonance imaging, which essentially is having people play computer games that we invent to look at how their brains pay attention and solve problems, looking at the basis of intelligence and creativity, and we do that in an MRI scanner. And we're looking to align what's happening in the education environment and the clinical environment with what's happening physiologically, so we know how to better provide intervention, support, and enrichment for kids like this.
So how did you get involved with Glory's Happy Hats?
I became involved with Glory's Happy Hats after I gave a community lecture on the science of imagination. And that evening I met Susan Corsand, who's the executive director of Glory's Happy Hats, and she started telling me about the wonderful intervention program that is Glory's Happy Hats. So she joined my story program in order to help us reach out to the community, children and families, and then also to participate and support Glory's Happy Hats message and the curriculum that children receive while they're doing this 25-step intervention process.
What difference do you think Glory's Happy Hats makes on children, either those that make them or those that receive them? And do you think the hats really make a positive difference?
I think the hats do make a positive difference. In the short time that I've been involved with Glory's Happy Hats, looking at the curriculum, the kids that are making the hats, it's a 25-step process, and they say it takes 21 times to make a new habit. And so over these 25 sessions, these kids are learning about their own brain development and how that connects with their social and emotional development and awareness, and then that connects to their motivation and thoughts about their future. And so what it's doing is really creating this multi-layered intervention that allows kids to better understand themselves socially and emotionally and even physiologically. And the practice of making the hats, the motivation behind that definitely transfers over into the kids that receive them in the hospitals.
This is KidLab's mock scanner, or pretend MRI. And when kids do MRIs, or anyone for that matter, If you've ever had one in a hospital, you know that you have to lie very still and it's cold and it's noisy. But in our MRIs, they're more like personal cinemas. So this is a pretend MRI that prepares children to stay still in an MRI. They get to practice the games that we've invented that look at how their brain pays attention and solves problems. They watch movies while we take certain pictures, and they can also hear the sounds of the MRI, so that when we get into the actual machine, it's not surprising to them about how noisy it might be or what it's going to feel like to actually have an MRI.
Providing young hat makers with a means of encouraging their peers in need, Happy Hats has created a win-win situation. Not only does the program give hospitalized kids a sense of hope, the workshops are also instilling a sense of charity and teamwork into the kids who make the hats, values that they can put towards making bigger changes in our world and leads the effort for a better life. That's all for now. For more information on Happy Hats, you can visit their website glorieshappyhats.org and be sure to visit our website ourtask.org. I'm Maria Takahashi. See you next time.
I'm basically helping produce it right now, and looking over the script and kind of taking care of, I guess, the behind the scenes for this is my first shoot, so that's what I was doing.
I'll tell you, the crew volunteers at AIM are wonderful.
This is my first time with News for the Future, and I'm very excited to be able to participate, especially where there's audience folks and where it's so interesting with respect to hearing views of youth as they give us their view of the world and their view of what the news is from a perspective that is very valuable because they are our future.
I'm volunteering on one of our members' shoots because it's a show that I like, and every now and again they let me sneak into actual productions that are just for AIM, and so I got lucky and I get to direct today, and hopefully we have a great show and everybody has a good time.
Is the host going to sit here?
That's where the host sits.
Okay, thank you.
Framing the camera for white balance.
I've been affiliated with AIM just about 2 years now.
Okay, and how's that experience for you?
It's fabulous. I wouldn't want it any other way but to be at AIM and be here doing shows. It's a great experience.
So far, the staff seems really nice and very helpful, and the facilities are pretty amazing.
Well, the things are coming together, It takes a lot of days of preparation to get all this stuff together, but it's really coming together.
I'll tell you just to like think of it as like you're telling someone a story, like a joke, and you're being entertaining.
The more experience you get, the more you kind of understand which direction you want to go and what you like and what you don't like, and getting more experience is always good. So this was a good opportunity. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It was something I wanted to do regularly. So
learning is something we should all do all of our lives. It's a great thing to do.
High-class production, nothing but quality, top-notch.
Exactly, Becky.
News for Our Future is produced by Our Task, a nonprofit organization based in Arlington, Virginia. Our Task is an international network of young adults who are concerned about the earth they will soon inherit.